20 years have passed since the fall of Ananda. Prince Azom, now a young man, lives a quiet, disciplined life in a temple within the empire of Sealand. But a prince's spirit is not easily tamed. He and his best friend, Romp, often sneak out, yearning for a taste of the world beyond the temple's sacred walls. The temple priest, a stern but caring guardian, has tried to shield Azom from the dangers outside, focusing his training on spiritual matters, not combat. But on this fateful night, the world Azom was hidden from came crashing in. Despite Sealand's emperor reinforcing security after repeated threats against the temple, a silent, deadly force swept through. One by one, the temple guards fell, their deaths shrouded in mystery. The attackers, swift and ruthless, overran the holy grounds, rounding up every priest and student. A single, chilling question echoed through the halls: where is Prince Azom? By a stroke of luck, or perhaps cruel irony, Azom was not inside. He had been waiting for the cover of darkness to sneak back into the temple, hoping to go unnoticed. As he approached, a horrifying sight met his eyes, the lifeless bodies of the guards he had known for years. Suddenly, Romp appeared from the shadows, his face pale with terror. He grabbed Azom, urging him to run, to flee for his life. But Azom stood his ground. He couldn't abandon the people who had raised him. He had to know what happened, and more importantly, he had to find a way to save them. Together, they crept back into the now occupied temple, moving like ghosts through the familiar corridors until they reached the main hall where the captives were being held. The sight of his masters and friends, bound and terrified, filled Azom with a cold fury. Thinking fast, Azom scribbled an urgent message on a piece of parchment. He pressed his royal signet, the last symbol of his princely identity, into the wax seal and handed it to Romp. His instructions were clear: get to the palace, deliver this to the emperor, and bring back help. This was their only chance. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. As Romp tried to slip away, he was spotted. The attackers dragged him back, and the sounds of his torture filled the night. Under unbearable pain, Romp finally broke, revealing that the prince was hiding nearby. The hunt intensified. Every shadow was searched, every corner cleared. Azom, concealed beneath a large, moss-covered rock in the temple gardens, held his breath. He was so close, yet unseen. But his tracks in the soft earth gave him away. The leader of the assassins, enraged that his prize was still out of reach, decided to force his hand. He dragged the terrified priests and students into the courtyard. "Surrender yourself, Prince Azom," he roared, "or watch everyone you love die." To prove his point, he executed two priests without a moment's hesitation. The courtyard fell silent, the air thick with dread. As the assassin raised his blade for a third victim, a figure stepped out from the shadows. It was Azom. "Let them go," he said, his voice steady despite the fear in his heart. "I am the one you want. Take me and spare their lives." The assassins closed in, their weapons ready. Azom closed his eyes, preparing for the end. But just as the final blow was about to land, the night sky filled with the whisper of death. A volley of arrows rained down from the darkness, striking the attackers with lethal precision. In seconds, it was over. His rescuer emerged from the shadows, a rugged man in his 40s, his eyes holding a wisdom far beyond his years. It was Prince Magal, Azom's older brother. Years ago, Magal had renounced his royal life to become a traveling merchant, seeking his fortune in trade. It was pure coincidence that his travels had brought him back to Sealand, just in time to witness the attack and save his younger brother. Magal escorted a shaken Azom to the safety of the imperial palace. The Emperor of Sealand was immensely relieved to see the prince alive, vowing to increase his protection. But Magal had a different plan. He stood before the emperor and requested battalions. Not for defense, but for attack. He wanted to reclaim their homeland of Ananda and place Azom on his rightful throne. The emperor refused. He looked at Azom, who still seemed more like a scholar than a warrior. A prince who cannot protect himself cannot protect a nation, he declared. Furthermore, the laws of Sealand forbade sending troops to fight in foreign wars. Disappointed and frustrated, Magal left the throne room, his hopes dashed. Later that evening, the emperor's daughter sought Magal out. She was a brilliant and ambitious woman, burdened by the guilt of not being born a son who could lead armies. She questioned her father's logic. Why protect a foreign prince who clearly had no ambition to rule? The emperor then revealed a crucial secret. As long as Azom, the prophesied heir, lived, the enemies who occupied Ananda could never claim total victory. The people of Ananda still held onto the hope that their true king would one day return. Azom was not just a person, he was a living symbol of resistance. Hearing this, the princess proposed a daring plan. She would marry Prince Azom. In exchange, the emperor would grant her command of 100,000 soldiers. With this army, she would march on Ananda, reclaim the palace, and secure the future of both their kingdoms, ensuring that an heir of the emperor's bloodline would one day rule. The emperor, seeing the fire in his daughter's eyes, agreed. Meanwhile, Magal found Azom and urged him to begin his real training. He needed to learn swordsmanship, study the art of war, and become the leader his people were waiting for. But Azom confessed the truth, he had no desire for the throne. He encouraged Magal, the seasoned warrior and clever strategist, to take the crown for himself. Magal shook his head firmly. "It is not my destiny," he explained. "Our father, King Ganna, chose you. You are the heir of the prophecy, and I have sworn to support you until the very end." Azom was confused. Why would the people still wait for him after 20 years of silence? Magal then painted a grim picture of life in Ananda under enemy rulers of slavery, hardship, and suffering. But through it all, he explained, their hope never died. This hope was a flicker, but Magal had been fanning it into a flame. For months, his messengers had been spreading the word across Ananda, Prince Azom is alive. This news had reignited the people's spirit, but it had also forced their enemies into a desperate move, the very attack on the temple that nearly cost Azom his life. The next day, the emperor summoned Magal back to the throne room. He had considered the princess's proposal and would agree to provide the army. But with one absolute condition: after their homeland was reclaimed, Prince Azom must marry the princess, uniting their kingdoms. Overjoyed, Magal felt victory was finally within their grasp. He rushed to find Azom to share the incredible news, to tell him that their long exile was finally coming to an end. He searched Azom's chambers, the library, the gardens, calling his name. But there was no reply. The rooms were empty. The prince was gone. Azom had vanished without a trace. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter of this epic tale. See you next time.